Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so it's another day, but pretty much a similar story. It's the same thing. It seems like the conversation we're going to be having for the rest of the year is all going to be revolving around the topic that these blue anon leftoid shills have learned absolutely frickin' nothing. Yep, the woke doubling down continues, this time on Reid's show. I got this little segment to show you guys, utterly shocked and confused as to how the state of Florida continues to trend rightward despite the Republicans' stance on illegal immigration. They really don't get it, and honestly at this point it's just a little bit pathetic. Let's go ahead and delve into the liberal hive mind. Let's take a look at what's going on within these hard skulls of theirs. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so here's a clip. We've got Reid asking a liberal pollster on her show if he thinks Trump's deportation plan is going to have negative impact on the Republican Party in the state of Florida. She seems to certainly think it should, but I think she was a little bit shocked by the response.
And internationalizing that same sort of strategy. But you can do that in the United States because it's the same country. What do you make of the fact that one of the big groups of people that Ron DeSantis did this to were Venezuelans? And Maduro in Venezuela is operating a sort of Trumpian-style autocracy. He'd be sending Venezuelans back to him, many of whom fled that country because of repression. And the Venezuelan community, and what we used to call West Venezuela in South Florida, are generally Republican-leaning. They like Trump. But how do you think that's going to go over in a place like Florida when he is shipping Venezuelans, not to Martha's Vineyard, but to Maduro?
She tried to set up this narrative, hoping that he would take it, and he said, sadly, I think it's going to actually go over pretty well.
Well, Joe, that remains to be seen here in Florida. Sadly, I think it might actually go over well. We have seen just a callous attitude from a lot, not only in the Venezuelan community, my own community, the Cuban community, about just get them all out of here, ship them all back. But, you talk earlier, and I think Aaron made a really good point that we should seize on. I never suggest taking the Trump administration at their word, but remember, they said that this first wave, Joy, of deportations were going to be focused on the criminal undocumented.
Yep, they're at it again. The leftoids simply don't get it. They're proving just how disconnected they are from what we call basic reality. And it's crazy to me that this woman gets paid millions of dollars a year to be a top political analyst when her head is so far shoved in the sand. I mean, what a ridiculous suggestion that Trump's deportation policies targeting illegal immigrants would alienate Florida voters. I mean, you have to have zero understanding of the political landscape to even come close to making a suggestion like that. Let's break it down piece by piece. First off, the political reality in Florida. Well, what do we know about Florida, and especially the recent trends? Well, the state is no longer a swing state. It's a red state now. And after the last election, this isn't up for debate anymore. Democrats thought the state was going to be within 5 points. It was still going to be a purple swing state. But look at the results. I think Trump won the state by 13 to 14 points. And Miami-Dade County, which was long considered a Democrat stronghold, flipped red back in 2022 for the first time in decades. And that flip stood strong in the 2024 election. In other words, we just had an election where Donald Trump ran on his deportation platform, and Miami-Dade, which has the largest population of Cubans and Venezuelans, voted for it. Ooh, so surprising. Leftoids can't wrap their heads around it, because her assumption, or really the left-wing assumption, is that Venezuelan Americans should support illegal immigrants from Venezuela because they share national heritage. It's just completely absurd, but what it really is identity politics. This idea that because these illegal migrants are you as a Venezuelan should now support their violation of the law and the Democrats' unconstitutional stances. It's absurd, and frankly I'd say it's an insult. And you'd think at this point the Democrats would have got the memo. I mean, frickin' newsflash, hello, legal immigrants almost always, in most cases, oppose illegal immigration more strongly than anyone else. I mean, what an insult. We're talking about people and families who went through the proper channels, people who paid their dues and followed the rules to become American citizens. And now you want those people to cheer on others skipping the line just because they came from the same country? It's absurd, especially considering the obvious circumstance here. Many of these illegal immigrants entering the US aren't just families seeking refuge, running away from political persecution in their nation. No, the vast majority of these people are criminals or individuals who are deliberately sent by the Maduro regime, if we're talking about Venezuelans, to essentially destabilize the United States. We're not talking about an issue of compassion here, we're talking about an issue of national security.
Does this surprise you that it sounds as if Venezuelan government is purposely freeing inmates and saying, you can go, How about north to America?
Yeah, this is their own variation of the Mariel boat lift from the 1980s, where Castro opened his jails and sent them to America. And if you hate America like Maduro does, this is a double win for you. You save money in your prisons, and you dump a strategic problem in every community in America. And it's almost surprising it took them this long to figure it out with the open borders policy.
I mean, we've seen what's been happening with these Venezuelan migrants. Many of them are part of that gang, I forget what it was called, Tren de Aragua or whatever. You got literal violent criminals and thugs, and now the implication here is that Venezuelan Americans in Florida should be supporting those people, or would be ditching Trump because he wants to send those people back? That is insane. And again, it falls right in line with what we've been talking about for the last couple of months, that these leftoids just simply don't get it. They don't get any of it. And it's this exact kind of shallow identity politics that's causing the Democrat Party right now to hemorrhage Hispanic voters. It's just such an interesting phenomenon. After years of calling Latino voters Latinx or Latinx, after all this identity politics nonsense and this illegal migration crisis that the Democrats have thrusted onto the country, after all the damage it's caused with Latino voters, and in the last election, seeing that huge Hispanic voter shift towards Donald Trump, you would think that their eyes would be wide open, but instead we get this. More doubling down, treating these communities as a monolithic block, more pushing this assumption that they should vote based on ethnic solidarity rather than actual important values, and upholding the American Constitution. It's not just insulting and condescending, but it seems, frankly, politically stupid. It's becoming increasingly obvious to people that these people are just grifters. I mean, this is a race grift, it's an identity grift, but most importantly, it's a partisan power grab grift. It's all about the narrative, and I think Joy Reid really showed her hand when she took that little jab at Donald Trump, claiming that all these poor Venezuelans are fleeing Venezuela because Maduro is a Trump-style authoritarian. I mean, how utterly ridiculous. Yes, Venezuelans are fleeing Maduro because he's an authoritarian like Trump, and so they're fleeing to Trump's authoritarian America? Hell, again, how stupid. She basically showed her ideological grift right then and there. It's all about using race as an emotional weapon and pushing this ridiculous hysteria and fear-mongering. It's obvious that the conversation they're engaging in over there at MSNBC is just a bad faith grift, and honestly, I'd be pissed off, I'd be frustrated if it was still working, but it's not, and so I'm not. I don't think this rhetoric works anymore, and so you know what? Keep going. Keep treating people like racial tokens, racial pawns in your political game. It's already backfired and it's going to keep backfiring. It's obvious they can't see it, and honestly, I'm not too mad about it. And that's it. I don't know what else to say. That's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.